Hey guys, it's Runchuks from BluffTheSpot. This week our guest is jimmyduraide, and what a conversation this was. He used to play pro baseball in Oakland Athletics, the team which is the subject of the Moneyball story, and after suffering a career-ending injury, he went into poker and became one of the most successful students on BluffTheSpot, and now he is a coach with BluffTheSpot. So we talk about his journey, dig into so many topics related to achieving top performance. We discuss the lessons from his professional sports career which he successfully applied to his progress in poker, and we go over so many tips on how to improve study routines, work routines, and how to find balance in your life. This was an inspiring and fun conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did, and as always, the timestamps are in the description, so feel free to jump around the topics if you want to, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Alright, enjoy. Alright, and we're live. Awesome. So, actually, I need to change this. So, we have jimmyduraide today as our guest.
Hey.
Super exciting, because he was a student in BluffTheSpot, a successful student, and now he is a coach in BluffTheSpot in all things No Limit Hold'em. But I'm really pumped to have this conversation with you, and your background is very fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited to be here.
All right, so maybe let's start with just, you could give a short introduction about yourself from like where you at in your poker career so that people know more about you as a poker player at the moment, and then we dive into all the other stuff from your background.
Yeah, so do you want to know from the beginning or just at this moment
Whatever, man, it's up to you.
I mean, at the moment I'm playing mostly mid stakes, 500 to 1K. For the last, I would say 7 to 8 months. I've been toying around in MTTs a bit more also lately with decent results. I'm playing mostly Zoom, so I mean, I'm focusing on cash games, pretty much like 90% of my volume, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I started CFP when I was playing 50 Zoom, and managed to move through the stakes fairly quickly once I started as a student. And then, yeah, I was established for a long time at 200 Zoom. And then about, I would say, 8 to 10 months ago, I started playing more and more 500 and up. And I mean, it's been going pretty well.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think, it would be important for us to highlight the other aspects about your life, about your background, because in my opinion, your success as a student has roots in your previous career, in your previous aspirations that you had. And I just want to give everybody this info that you used to be a professional baseball player, right? And
Yes.
that was something that you aspired to play big time in the big leagues, etc. And I think I personally want to talk about that part a lot today, because in general, I'm always fascinated by the parallels between professional sports and poker, because I see it over and over again. The people who come in to the game of poker with a professional approach, with a good mindset in terms of what it takes to improve, what it takes to measure your performance, what it means to be honest about evaluating yourself, all these things, which you learn as a pro, especially on a high level, professional sports person, right? So yeah, maybe let's dive into that. Maybe give us a bit of that background from your history.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing a lot of sports, and at some point, my dream was to play baseball. Like I used to play football, basketball, baseball growing up, and then when I was around 18 years old, I decided to focus on baseball because I loved the sport, and I was decent also. So I mean, that always helps. So basically, my dream was to play baseball at a very high level, which is the major leagues, Major League Baseball. So basically, at the age of 21, I got drafted by the professional team, the Oakland Athletics, as a pitcher. And then once I got drafted, then I turned pro and went into their system. Yeah.
Right. And I know that a lot of my viewers are not gonna like have a slightest clue about what is
Yeah.
baseball and
Baseball.
how people play it and what it means, but I'm sure that a lot of people heard about Moneyball, right? Moneyball, the movie,
Yeah, the
Moneyball,
movie.
the
Yeah.
book, and the whole story about how this guy Billy Bean came up with the system of how to measure the performance and how to measure the game, and that gave him such a huge advantage that this team that nobody gave much credit actually became, the World Series champs, and and basically paved the way for other teams to implement the same strategies, with being more analytical,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So it was a big game changer, right?
I mean, he was like 20 years ahead of everybody. Like everybody is now doing this, but he was doing that before. So he would like look at players when he was recruiting that basically nobody else was looking at. So basically, he would get them on a discount plus. Like with the I don't know the algorithms he did or whatever the stats that he thought that was important, he he knew that those players would have a much higher impact than other players.
Right.
So I mean that was like I don't know like 20 years ago, but like people are starting to do that more and more now.
Yeah, and it's crazy because basically, he introduced solvers into the game of baseball in
Yeah.
a way. If we draw a parallel here
Yeah.
with poker. So anyway, you were drafted for Oakland Athletics. You played. Was it 4 years that you played in the team?
Yes, baseball is a bit different than other major sports like NFL or NBA, where once you get drafted, you go straight into the league, or you go like or in the summer league, and then you go in the league. So the road to the major league or the big leagues is way longer in general, because once you get drafted, you have like 6 levels before you get to the big league. So basically, like you get drafted, you have the rookie ball level, you have the low A, the A ball, the high A, double A, and triple A. And basically, how it should in a regular pattern, I would say, is that you play basically 1 year at every level before going there. So like usually, like there's the average of age like when they get to the big leagues of players, it's like, I don't know, like 24, 25, 26 years old. So they're not that young because it takes a lot of time to get there.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good point for, especially for the people from Europe, that
Yeah.
just because you played in Oakland Athletics doesn't mean you actually played in the main team and in the big time, right? But
No.
at the same time, like the sport is so different to anything else that we have here in Europe, because you guys play like 100-something days a year, right?
Yeah, to be honest, like it's crazy. Like it's 145 games or 142 games when you're playing in the minor leagues, and like 160 when you're playing in the big leagues. But basically, like our schedule was like you would have literally like 1 or 2 days off per month. Like that's it. And then the the typical day, if you can say it like that, like we would get up at, I don't know, like 10 in the morning, get breakfast, and then we would go to the gym from like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 to like 12:30, get lunch, go straight to the field, and then at around 2 we have our practice, which lasts, I don't know, from like 2 to 4:30 or something like that. You go back in the clubhouse, you eat, and then you go back out because you have a game at 7 that finishes around like 10-ish, because it's around 3 hours. So then you take your shower, you eat, you go back, you go to sleep. I don't know. I mean, you don't want to go back to sleep as soon as you're done. So you're basically going back to sleep around 12, 1, go to sleep, and then woke up and do it all over again. And that's basically like when you're playing home, because like a lot of the times, like the teams you're playing against, like they're like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours away. And like when you're in the minor leagues, I mean, you don't take planes, you just take bus rides. So like it's you sleep on the floor in the bus for like 10 hours, and then you wake up, you need to go pitch and you need to go play. Like it's really tough, you know. But I mean, it's you do that because you love the sport, and at some point, like things will get better because your plan is to get to the big leagues, right?
Right, right. And again, there's so many parallels here with poker, right? Because that's basically the road to success in poker as well. You have to be dedicated, you have to have a routine, you have to
Yeah.
have a schedule. It's not only about playing when you have an inspiration or something, you have to put in the hours, right? And
Yes.
so this background for sure helps you, as with any, like many other professional sports people, you know, because you're working with the routines. You know that you have to put in the work. It's
Hmm.
not just about like, okay, freedom of time. I'm just gonna play whenever I find some time. No, you free the time up to play, and that's your time of the day. And of course, in the sports as well. Like, what's the coaching team here? Like, how much interaction did you have with the coaches? Like, how does that work?
It's always like for me, every day I wanted to learn. So basically, you had coaches, which were great, right? I mean, because most of our coaches played in the big leagues for multiple years. So like, um, so I mean, they really help us to move up and like move through the levels. Also, um, for me, I think what really helped me as well is that I was always trying to like, yes, the coaches are good, but I got a lot from the other players as well. You know, like you see a guy that's doing something that you need to work on, but he's doing something really, really good. Like, why not just go ask him? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and then you exchange with other guys, and then you exchange. Oh, how do you do that? How do you do this? Yeah, oh, for me it works this way. For him it works this way, and then you try it, and then you make it better, and that type of stuff. So not only like you can get um, I mean, you can get better by like getting advice from the coaches, but like by just looking around, seeing um, like what other guys are doing things well, and then you just try to pick their brains and just like that. That's just the way I try to approach it. And it's kind of the same thing in poker as well, because I mean, you can have a coach that's helping you, but you can have also friends that's playing poker that you can have like regular exchanges, conversation, and talk about hands, that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's especially like we think about, you know, in pro sports or in poker, with coach you have regular sessions, right? So there's
Hmm.
like a regular recurring theme with the coach. He's going to look at the game. But with your guys, with your mates on the field, when your training partners, you're there every day, right?
Yeah.
So that is continuous improvement. And that's not just, you know, once in a week kind of interaction where, you know, so that is useful. That is so important in poker
Yeah, I
and,
mean,
and,
I
and
mean,
everywhere else.
you just have to pick each other's brains. I mean, that's just like somebody is doing something great, is doing it differently than you. Then you have to try to ask questions. You know, you have to be kind of annoying in a sense, you know.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because we had a podcast with Ben CB last week, and
Yeah.
he was also like saying about similar thing that you know he was to a point of being annoying when he was starting out in poker of just basically pestering everybody
Hmm.
in the forums and just asking a lot of questions, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, pro baseball, and then you had a major injury.
Yes, I mean, I basically had two shoulder surgeries. One, I tore my rotator cuff, so they had to do surgery, and then that one was not a big surgery. So when I came back, I was kind of like close to where I was before. But after that, I got another injury where I tore my labrum, and it's not the best. It's not the best injury to have when you're throwing a baseball or a ball for a living. Like
Yeah.
they basically had to like put some uh, I don't know the you know what you when you have two paper together and you want to
Yeah,
staple it.
staples,
Yeah,
staples.
so
Yeah,
they had to put like staples and stuff, and it just now I can still throw the ball, but like I'm not nowhere close to where I was. So basically, once that happened, they released me. That's kind of the word for saying that uh, they fired me. So then I was like 25 at the time, and then I was out of a job, and like my goal or my dream all through this time was to get to the big leagues, which then I knew that it wasn't gonna happen.
Right. Well, this is something that I really want to dive into because, for a lot of people, they deal with like a horrible incident that puts a stop to their dreams, right?
Yeah.
And then basically they go into this sort of spiral of, life sucks and just getting worse and worse. Whereas your case is inspiring because you found another passion and you went for it and you're arguably achieving success on a good level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk me through that. Like, how was it emotionally? Like, how did you feel when it happened, when you realized that, okay, my dream is no longer my dream. I can't pursue this anymore.
It was really hard, to be honest, because I think in some way, the way I got injured was not through throwing. So it was basically, I made personally some decisions during the off season to work out a special way with some other guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which created this thing in my shoulder. So basically, like, I think the biggest thing for me is that it was kind of my fault, because the year before I had thrown like 160 innings, which is like every 5 days I'm throwing 5 innings or more for like 6 months. And then I didn't have any problems to my arm, but like I go back in the off season, so I go back home, and like I'm supposed to be good because I'm taking like 2 months off and then starting to work out again and then do my stuff, and then I come back to spring training where I should be fresh and ready, and then I'm hurt. So that for me, like if I actually threw a ball and just snapped my shoulder in half, I would be like, okay, God, like it's bad luck, right? Like it happens, but it sucks. Now it's kind of like the idea of me like choosing to do that, and that turned into me getting hurt. Like that kind of stuck with me for a while, to be honest. And like it was hard because now not only like I'm not gonna play baseball professionally anymore, but like I'm 25 years old without a degree. Like what the hell am I gonna do in my life? Like so yeah. So it was like fortunately, like I've been with my girl for like 11 years, and like she has been the most supportive person like ever. So she really helped me go through it. Like she was always there. Like it's I think it's important. Like if I would have been alone in this, I probably would have like spiraled down, or I don't know, like it would have been much harder, if you could put it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so how did you come to poker then?
Once I stopped playing baseball, I decided to go back to university at the age of 25 or 26 in business. And then at that time, I started playing poker on the side because I always enjoyed poker, but I never really played before. Like, I mean, I was playing with friends, and like the odd time that you play poker, and you think you're awesome, but yeah. No, so basically I went back to university and then started dabbling into poker. I deposited like, I don't know, 20-25 bucks, started playing 2NL around 25 or between 25 and 26, and through like video content that was available on internet, I was able to move through to 50 Zoom, where I was like a small winner, and like nothing ridiculous, but yeah. So that's pretty much it. And then like at some point, I just didn't know how to improve by myself anymore at 50 Zoom. I was always getting crushed at 100 Zoom, like back and forth. So I decided to do something a bit more drastic and join the CFP. But like at that time, like I was kind of like, it was kind of a big decision because I was kind of like older, I was going to school. I was working like I had a job as well. Like so, I was going to full time to university. I think I mentioned that to you, but going full time to university, I had like a side job, not a side job, but like a job that was like between 20 and 25 hours a week. And I was also playing like 80 to 100K hands a month of poker. So like
Right.
there was not much time left in my day.
Wow. Wow. Some people struggle to put in 100,000 hands a month of poker, even when they do it full time, right? So
Yeah.
it's quite impressive. Um, all right. So okay. So you're saying at some point you realized you're stagnating. You can't really move up on your own. So you reached out to Bluff the Spot and signed up for CFP. How was that process? Talk me through it. Like,
Like
how did you
for
come to that decision?
to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like I was just I didn't really know how to get better myself. And then one of my buddies that I was talking a lot poker with decided to join a CFP. So basically, the two CFP he applied, I told myself like, why not? So I did the same thing, and then we ended up choosing Bluff the Spot, which was one of the best decision I could have ever made in terms of me playing poker. Yeah, so basically, like it wasn't even me that was looking out for it. It was basically my buddy, and then he said, "Oh, I'm gonna do this." I'm like, "Oh, this could be interesting. So why not do? I'm gonna do it as well." And then I decided to join. Like as soon as he told me that, like it didn't take much time. Like I was already enrolled. I think it made sense for me in a way that like at some point like you need people to help you out move through the stakes. It's really hard to do on your own, and yeah.
Right. So how was your progress? Like, so you signed up, and how was the process for you? Like, what was going on, and how? Because like my point is, you progressed quite quickly. To be honest, like your progress was, really fast. How did it happen?
It's just a matter. I think like my first 200 or 300K hands, I was breaking even, and I mean, like there was a lot of stuff that I needed to change, that I needed to start doing. That that you get out of your comfort zone. There's like concepts or topics that like you listened about, but like you're not applying it in game. So like putting it all together like took me a while. So I would say like my first 200 or 300K hands were kind of break even ish at 50 Zoom, and then once I moved to 100, I mean, I just started doing really well. So I mean, like I played 300K hands there, had a really good win rate, moved to 200, and then never looked back after that. So it's within 10 months, I was kind of shooting like 500, but like my main game was 200, which had a really decent year last year, and yeah, I mean it's just a matter of I think working hard and just putting it all together. I mean, it's just a constant grind. Like not only playing, but you have to try to study and approach. I think that's also like what helped me the most is that with Bluff the Spot, I saw like how we should approach studying, how we should approach learning and that type of stuff, which really helps, because for me, I've always been a hard worker, right? But I've always been a hard worker towards things that I enjoy, and also when I know uh, it's going to produce results. So like, that's kind of annoying when you're on your own, right? And then you're doing stuff, you're working on your game, but like at the end of the day, you're not really sure that all the things you're doing, like it's really going to help you out, or it's just going to make you a worse player, or you're just losing your time, right? But once you join and then you see that successful players are doing or thinking about like poker this way or studying this way, I mean, for me, it just doesn't make sense that I don't start doing exactly the same.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good point because again, and I talk about it quite often with my guests. the fact that, information is available to everyone. It's out there. The tools are available out there for everyone as well. And so many of us are hard workers, right?
Mhm.
But what good is it if you work on the wrong thing
Yeah.
really, really hard, right? And how do you find the right things? How do you move into the right direction? And it's for somebody who comes from sports background, it's easy to see how,
Hmm.
a coach gives you the correct direction, right? Because you went through it already in the career. Because, like, let's face it, you were a pitcher. If you don't have a coach, if you're just pitching, you know, 10 hours a day, every
Yeah.
day, it doesn't mean that you're going to become, playing in a
No.
major league, etc., right? It's just not going to happen. Just putting in the hard work is not enough. You need to know the direction to dig in.
Totally.
So yeah, speaking about like the parallel between the pro sports and how you approached your studies, what do you think made you successful as a student?
As a student, I mean, I think it's just a matter of like I mentioned, like being annoying, asking questions, um, just I mean, being prepared. Like I mean, you're paying for a service, right? I mean, how can you arrive to a coaching without being prepared? Without having questions, without having like stuff that you want to get answered to. For me, it just doesn't make sense. And it's just being prepared on time and just like try to take the most out of your coaching. Really, that's pretty much, like, it's not that complicated, to be honest. It's just a matter of, like, also I think one thing that's super important for students and other poker players when they want to improve is that you need to put volume in. Like, I mean, you could be studying like 50 hours a week. I think one of the best ways to improve is through playing. Like, you getting some experience, you're getting some feel for like certain spots, that type of stuff, see what's working, what's not. And then, like, yes, studying is super important, but I mean, I like only studying like will not make you a better, like, it will make you in theory, but like when playing, there's also the thing that, like, you have to be able to apply what you learn in game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't put any volume, like it's going to be so hard for you to recognize all the things that you actually studied and learn off the tables and try to apply it when the situation comes, right? So in order to do that, like, you have to keep things simple, in my opinion. So you have to work on um, not too many subjects at the same time. So you work on like couple specific subjects. You really focus on that and you try to apply it in game. And then once you feel really confident about a certain spot, or I mean, you feel more confident that about how you're playing this spot, then you move on to another subject, and so on and so on. And obviously, you should always start working with like the spots that are the most that occur the most often, and that type of stuff. Yeah.
Right, right. I just want to point out that one thing that you're saying, which is, usually I tell everyone that, hey, just playing doesn't make you a better player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you
Yeah.
said,
Also.
yeah, and what you said, just learning also doesn't make you a better player. You have to have a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, with your approach of putting in a ton of hours, creating a lot of volume while you're playing, because you come prepared to the sessions, like you said, because you come with the questions, what you want to figure out, etc., which just goes to show that you use your huge volume to find the right questions to ask, to find the
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses, to find the things to work on. And I completely agree that that's a beautiful way to basically keep improving, because you're working on practical things, on things that you're actually struggling with, and so yeah, it basically allows you to progress quicker because you're plugging the leaks as you go, and your game evolves much quicker because you're putting in this huge volume as well, right?
Yes, yes. I think at that time, to be honest, I was putting in too much volume. Like, it was just ridiculous with all the amount of like work. Now I'm playing less hands. I mean, I'm playing higher as well, so it's a lot more difficult putting in as much volume, right? Um, but like I think like yes, like you mentioned, we need that balance. The thing is that like when you're playing, like you're facing some better players, you're facing some good regulars in your opinion, that type of stuff. So like when you play also, like you can see, okay, this guy's doing this, doing that. Oh, why did he do this? Why did he do that? And then you're starting to ask yourself questions, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna dig a bit more, like about this line, about that line. You see other stuff, right? So like it's also like a nice way to actually get better also, and like get some insights on how to improve and that type of stuff. Oh, he's doing this, it's a bit different. Okay, why is he doing that? And then you're taking a look into it. Okay, does it make sense? Do you think I should implement that in my game? That type of stuff.
Right. And I think also like it's worth pointing out that with the coaching for profit model, it's much easier to have the continuous feedback, and it's much easier to have the continuous feedback not only from your coaches but also from like your peers, the other players that study together, right? Because we already discussed how important it is to exchange information with other players, and you guys end up pushing each other in the right direction, and then you have a coach who is able to answer your bigger questions, and guide you in a correct way. And also, one of the biggest things that a coach should do is identify the things that you don't know you're doing wrong, right? Because, I mean, one of the biggest problems for everyone is just, how do you know what you don't know, right? Like, how are you going to ever figure out unless you have, like, stumble upon some reading material that help you with that, you watch a video that help you with that, you have a friend who points something out, or you have an experienced coach who's been there, done that, have seen this thing over and over again, and and it's just able to guide you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, I always, like, whenever like I talk with new students, I always suggest to them that they find some study buddies, like somebody that plays similar stakes, so they can talk about the player pool, they can talk about player tendencies, that type of stuff, and how to approach as well, like their game. And I mean, I think like big groups like doesn't often work well, so like, because I mean there's too much organization sometimes, like to everyone to be there and that type of stuff. It's fine to but like if you really want to study, I think you should find like one or two buddies and just make it kind of simple. You play kind of similar stakes, and
yeah, of course, because like you end up knowing each other better, and you keep pushing each other. Because I agreed, like a sweet spot of 2, 3, up to 5 maybe, a group of people like-minded that are pushing each other. That's a great way to approach it. And you've mentioned your work with the students. So right now you are a coach. You were a student in BluffTheSpot, you became a coach. Talk about that. Like, what, why did you take up this opportunity? Like, what went through, like, how did you make that decision?
I mean, after I stopped playing baseball, I was coaching baseball for like, I don't know, 6 years or something. And yeah, really enjoyed it a lot. So, I mean, like, I felt that when I got proposed the opportunity to do so, that I would fit in well, in the sense that like I've had, I mean, not into poker, but like I've had some experience into coaching, and I've been coached quite a lot as well through my all through my life. So I mean, I felt that like it was a nice opportunity, and like I was sure that I was gonna enjoy it, and I do. So for me, it was basically like a no-brainer.
Right. So how do you enjoy this work actually now? Like, what's the
coaching part,
the
or
coaching,
the playing part? Yeah, I really do enjoy it. I mean, it's really it's something that like I've always enjoyed, like through baseball or poker. It's also, I think, like it helps you. Like you could also talk about it, but like I feel that it really did help me get better. Like, because a lot of the times, like, you just through just repeating like stuff, like you just feel that, okay, you just get more solid into your like what you say. You know, like it's not really sure how to explain it, but for me, it did feel like it really did help me improve as a player as well.
Right. Well, yeah, it's understandable because, like they say, you know, if you wanna learn the subject on a deeper level, try explaining the subject to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So you constantly have to do it as a coach, of course. And by the way, so Moneyball is asking, and guys, I'm actually keeping an eye on the chat. So hello everyone, and nice to have you here. But Moneyball is asking, did you become a coach during CFP or after?
I think it was at the end of my, like right at the end of my contract. So my contract basically finished, and I was, I think, playing 200 Zoom with taking shots at 500, and then that's when they asked me.
Right.
So yeah.
Right, because actually I want to point out that this is something I like about Bluff the Spot and how we approach the continuity of the knowledge, right? Because we do try to take people from former students to become coaches, because there's a certain philosophy that you learn as to approach to the game, the approach to the studies, you know, and it's good that, you know, a coach who comes from within, he already knows all these things and he is, you know, well versed in into the subject, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's not like everybody's playing the same, but there's like general guidelines and like a lot of stuff that like I think makes sense that we mostly play the same, but everybody also like as their differences. But just having those and the guy is a student and understands like how everybody approaches those situations. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense to just like take some of the students to make them coaches, because I mean they really understand the philosophy, like you mentioned, the way it approaches the game, that type, the way it studies, that type of stuff. Which is, I mean, you know, like it could be a lot different if you take somebody from the outside and yeah.
Right, exactly. And where are you from? You're from Canada, right?
Yeah, I'm from Canada. Yeah,
Right.
and it's really cold at this moment.
Oh, well, you were so sad when you said that. It's really
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
where
really
I'm
cold.
at, it's real nice and warm today, if you want to know.
Thanks.
So if it makes you feel any better, I had a really sunny day, and it's
Thanks.
a bit too hot, to be honest. So, all right. Right. That led me into like this blank state of mind where I don't know where I'm at right now. So, listen, I want to talk a bit about, you know, because I find one thing really interesting. One thing among many things, but this fact that you were able to play, you know, like 100,000 hands per month and 80,000 hands per month on a regular basis, right? You can only do it if you have proper routines, if you have proper approach, etc., etc. So maybe talk about, like, tell me more about how did you approach it? How did you make it happen on a constant basis, not just like a one-off month, right? Because that was a regular thing for you, that you were actually putting in a lot of volume like this.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing a million hands a year, but like the thing is that it was just a thing that like I started playing poker kind of late, right? So like a lot of people started like around 18, 19. So when they get to like 30, I mean, they still enjoy the game, but like it becomes more of a grind, if you can say it like that. For me, like I just started, so I mean it was super easy to just log on the computer and put in volume because I just wanted to play, and I'm still the same way, you know. Like I still love the game, which I think like it did help me to actually start a bit later, right? Because at this stage, um, I'm 32 now, so I mean, like I'm still enjoying every minute I'm actually playing, you know. And also like to try to I mean diversify. Like I thought about doing like other things than poker in the sense that like I thought about maybe like learning PLO or doing like, I don't know, and then eventually I decided to maybe start studying a bit more MTTs because I mean I just started playing a bit some and then really enjoyed it somehow. Like I didn't think I was gonna do that. Maybe it's because I had a nice score early, but like the thing is, I I was kind of debating what to do and then decided, okay, why not play some more MTTs? And I think that's like a um, pretty nice thing in the sense that like, you know, maybe like during some series play more MTTs just to get your mind off the regular grind, and just when you get back, you know, like you're kind of eager, you're kind of like really looking forward to start grinding cash back again, right?
Yeah, I can totally see the appeal of a thing of like switching up your routine, right? It's so
Yes.
useful. To me, what I do and how it happens in my own career is I'm basically really, really focused on PLO. I play all the games, but I do focus on PLO first and foremost. But
Yes.
for the longest time, I had these. So I would basically like, so let's say if we look back like 2 3 years ago, I would travel like 5 to 6 months a year for live poker.
Oh wow.
Right, so that's the huge switch for me. I would go and play the games in Bellagio like the whole summer, and then I come back online, and I'm eager to play online.
Hmm.
Right, so that was, and I totally see the, you know, the feeling that you're describing of, you know, you during the series of, you know, you play the MTTs and you come back to
Hmm.
your grind of cash games, and you're actually eager to jump in. You're like, I can't wait
Totally.
to do this, right?
Exactly. The thing I thought about like when I was thinking about learning PLO is that like if I wanted to do that, like I would have probably have to play a lot of live PLO because I hear it's really good, but I'm not a big fan of live personally.
Mm.
So then I was like I think it kind of makes more sense to maybe start doing some MTTs, and I actually tried out and played like for a couple weeks more, and I really enjoyed it. So I just decided to that's the thing I was gonna do
Right.
more. But like it's always gonna be like a really small amount compared to my regular volume. But it's just nice to do something else, you know, and just keep your mind off. I mean, we're still playing poker, but like it's kind of a different form. So which
Mm-hmm.
is yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool that you recognize like what you like more and you go for it, right? Because
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
for me, I personally hate MTTs. I can't do it. You know, every time
Yeah.
when I basically I buy in, and then I start thinking about when can I just bust. I want to go. This is bullshit. Like the first time I realized, oh really, I'm gonna have a 5 minute break in 55 minutes. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Oh man, those are annoying, man. You play for
Yeah.
like 14 hours. Like you have to eat like real quick on the side of the table. Like you have 2 minutes to go to the bath. I mean, it's
Yeah.
super annoying. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. So I mean,
Yeah, that's the
but
thing. But it's important, like, you know, for everyone, because I get asked by people, should I go into PLO? Should I go into Hold'em? Should I go into MTTs? And I try everything and then choose what you're more passionate about and then go
exactly.
for it. Because in the end of the day, it's a lot of hard work. You want to achieve something in any
Mhm.
field in poker or elsewhere. I mean, you want to achieve something, you're gonna have to work really hard. If that hard work is always a drag, it's gonna be really tough. You know, if you're enjoying it along the way, that's the beautiful sweet spot, right?
I think that's the most important part. I mean, we talked about this earlier, but like I think that it makes it so easier that when you like something to actually put the work in. You know, like there's some guys that plays for poker that doesn't like poker. They only do it for money, which
Mm-hmm.
is fine, you know, because a lot of people are are having regular jobs that they really don't like, you know, but I mean they do it because they need a paycheck. But like I think if you do something that you actually like and you actually passionate about, it's just easy to put in the work. So it's much easier also to progress through that, whatever it is, to be honest. But it just I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah. And I feel like, because I see it a lot in some of my students, that once you start working in a group with other like-minded people, the motivation levels go up. The passion goes up because you start seeing different angles. You start seeing new things that you haven't thought about. You start realizing that, hey, this game is bigger than I thought it is. And that is a beautiful thing that kind of reignites the passion in many people, who find new ways to look at the things and realize like how complex it is, and
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just totally agree.
Yeah. And also, like, because, about the MTTs, I just want to say, because I mentioned that, those 5-minute breaks piss me off, and you mentioned the 14 hours. I think it's important for everyone to realize what they like, because I don't think that the actual 5-minute break is the one aspect that really stops me from playing tournaments.
No.
There's probably something more. I haven't I didn't do like a proper analysis of why I hate MTTs. I don't know, but I'm just thinking like, because in cash games, like sometimes literally this Sunday, or if we take like Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week, I've played something like 38 hours of online poker, 38, 40 hours, right? On Sunday alone, I played a huge volume, but just because the games were running, we had beautiful 10K PLO game running the whole day, which doesn't happen that often. So, basically Saturday, Sunday this weekend was constant action, multiple tables, 10K PLO.
Good.
And, I can play like 14-hour, 15-hour days, and I can play 6 hours no break, no problem.
Yeah.
But somehow the tournaments always piss me off, and I remember because I've tried
PLO. You enjoy PLO.
Yeah, exactly. And I've tried PLO tournaments. I still feel really shitty about it. I'm like, I hate it. I hate it. Something about, I don't know what I hate about it, right? But to be honest, in my position, I don't need to figure it out, like, because I'm not trying to find new fields to go into. I'm very happy to keep focusing on on my game, and to be honest, there's so much work that I need to keep doing to stay at this level, right? Because everybody keeps improving, and you can't just rest. You need to keep working. But for people who don't know the direction they want to go yet, I really think that the way to find out is to try one, try the other, try the third, try to figure out what makes you feel better, because the games are so vastly different, right? The experience of playing a tournament or a cash game, it's such a different experience, right?
Yes.
The tournament, you're playing for the prize. The tournament is more sort of a competition type of thing, whereas cash game is more analytical, is more kind of the long-term affair, right? At least the way I see it. And the same goes for like comparing PLO and Hold'em. It's a different experience, right? It's a different experience both playing online and playing live, because especially live, you see the difference. Like sometimes I play in the games which are the mixed games, and we would have a Hold'em round, and you're just like, as soon as the Hold'em round comes, you know that the whole table is just basically, oh no. Because it's boring, it's boring for us, because we are, the PLO people, and like most of the people at the table, they want to play PLO, they want to play action, right? Whereas, of course, for people who are very much into Hold'em, and they're just like Hold'em, as soon as the PLO round comes, they're like, shit, I'm just going to fold the whole round. It's too much. Like, I don't why do you, this is just gamble, So the perceptions are different, and everybody should just try to seek and find the games that they're more passionate about. I think that's what I'm trying to tell here.
Yeah, I think that's what you should do, because there's, like, in any game that you're going to choose, there's going to be so much work to put in that, I mean, you might as well enjoy what you do, right?
Yeah. I see Moneyball made a nice comment about like a little quote that along the lines of, find something you like doing that everyone else hates and make it your job. That's a beautiful, beautiful quote. Because in fact, yeah, I mean, in a way, you're gonna find a niche field, and you're gonna, you know, by definition, it's gonna be a niche field because everybody else hates it, right? So, unfortunately, in poker, right, you can find a game that you love and nobody plays it. That's a bit of a problem. Like yeah, you can have a game, like because like when you go to Vegas or LA or to be honest any major stop, right? They always pretend that we have this new game, we just invented it like last week. Do you guys want to play it? And in fact, what happens is usually during the series, in the high stakes, they introduce some new games into the mix. They always like bullshit everybody by saying like, yeah, we just invented it. It's like, look at this, it's really fun. Like we played in a hotel room 2 days ago. In fact, it's obviously bullshit because like they invented like 6 months in advance. They test run it in like LA or in some private games. They try to figure out the strategy and they introduce. So it's like a regular hassle. But the thing is, so you become great at that game, and the next year nobody plays that game anymore because there's another bullshit hassle game, right? So it happens a lot that, you can become great in a niche and then you're alone there. And in poker, being alone at the table is it's a sad table.
Also, like having not sure. I don't think we mentioned it, but like I have a kid now. Like he's just under 1 year old. So like playing cash games also like the benefit from it is basically to like you can start and stop whenever you want, right? Like in MTTs, I mean like you're just out for the whole day. Like you cannot do anything. I mean you have like 5 minutes break, to eat or go to the bathroom. That's basically it. So I mean. It's really hard to reconcile like family and putting in volume like if you're playing MTTs.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the kid. I mean, the kid's not gonna wait till daddy has a 5 minute break.
He doesn't walk yet, so that's fine.
Yeah. Well, how old is he? 8 months now, right?
Yeah, 8 months.
All right. Yeah, cool. Mine's close to a year and a half now.
So he walks around and he's more active, right?
Oh man, yeah, that's the thing now. It's becoming like, he just comes to my office. I have a glass door, and he just starts banging on it. Like, come on, because he's really fascinated by the tables. He's just like, oh, these tables, this is nice, and he's, he comes over, starts pointing at the tables and trying to explain that I probably need to like. You need to do something, daddy. This is like bullshit, You need to
and then
play.
Clicks a hotkey, and then you're like...
That's the problem. No, literally, that you've hit the nail here, because, sometimes I would just go to grab like my coffee or something, because, for the most part, sometimes during the day, like I would be sitting at all the tables open sitting, just waiting for a game to start, and there's no game. So I go grab a coffee. And I come back and he's here in my office, like playing with the mouse, clicking around. Like hopefully so far nothing happened, right? Nothing happened, and now I'm a bit smarter about it. Like I put the mouse on a top shelf whenever I leave, but I'm sure one day I'm gonna forget, and one day I'm gonna forget, and then you come back and it's like, oh, there's a 10K table, and who's the fish? Oh, I'm the fish actually, because I'm all in every hand, because the kid just decided to play some poker, so that's gonna be fun. Yeah, Moneyball is saying we can schedule an MMA fight for the kids when they're both 18. Why wait till 18?
Yeah.
Fucking do it when mine is 12, yours is 10. How about that?
Nice.
Just whoop his ass.
Give me like 3-1 and then I'll take it.
Right. I don't know if I want my kid to go into MMA.
Me either.
Right. Even though I did a fair share of martial arts myself as a hobby, never competitive, but I had even just from all the training, I had a fair amount of bullshit, like a broken jaw and whatever, So I still can't eat any nuts without making horrible noise with my jaw. So that's not something I'm looking for him. Well, maybe we can arrange like a Galfond type challenge for the kids when they're both 18. Just like 50K hands. Let's figure it out. Let's see who's the kid boss in town. Yeah.
Okay, but no limit hold'em. Okay, no PLO.
Whatever. We have 18 years. I'm gonna prepare him. That's not a problem. If we put the stakes high enough, I have incentives, and that's not a problem. Yeah. Anyway, so how do you actually arrange your life right now? Because like a kid is a life changer. I know a lot of my friends are actually in the same period in their life, because, obviously a lot of guys started young and it was a different lifestyle back then for them. Many of them started when they were single. Many of them just got into poker for the freedom, for the fun, for the,
Yeah.
whatever. And now more and more of my friends are basically with the stable family, with the kids, either already kids or kids coming soon, so to say, right? And it's a life changer. First of all, like your life changes in terms of your routines, your approach, how you treat poker as a career, but also for some people it creates this sort of feel that now you're the provider for the family. And so this is serious shit now, right? We no longer can afford to like occasionally go broke and go like on this crazy ride and, ride it out. So for some people, it changes their perception of what it means. It didn't happen to me because, I already was in a state of mind where poker was just work for me. Like I treat it very from a professional kind of approach. It's work, it's routine, and I make sure that I leave work at work. So what I mean is just basically, when I'm done with the days, when I'm done with the day, when I switch off the tables, when I switch off my computer, I'm done. I don't care if that was like the biggest winning day, the biggest losing day. I'm going to be doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to be with my family. I'm going to be with my friends. I'm going to be having dinner. I'm going to enjoy every single bite of my dinner. Because I know in the beginning of my career, I had these periods where I really struggled to switch off, especially after extraordinary days, like a big winning day, big losing day. You would keep thinking about it, and you sort of it affected the life in a negative way, for some time. But, for a longest time now, I don't have these problems. But what happened to you? So the kid comes, how did it change your life? And just basically go ahead, talk about it. I'm quite interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's how can I say this? I mean, I can say that I'm fortunate to have a really supporting wife, in the sense that like she understands that like I want to put volume and that type of stuff, like in the sense of my routine, um, like I'm not playing as much in the mornings anymore. I usually get up, spend time with the baby, get breakfast, that type of stuff, and then start playing a bit later than usual before. And also it's better because the games, when it's really early in the morning, like there's not many games running. I mean, there's less game running in the morning. So like if I start playing a bit later, then it's better for me. So I mean, that's pretty much it. So like in the mornings, like I usually do some like coaching, take like woke up, spend time with the baby, and then I play during the afternoon. And then like before, what I was doing is a lot of times I was playing like every day, but now I'm trying to take like some days completely off, where before I didn't really do that, in a sense that like, okay, today I'm not thinking about poker. I'm not playing poker. I'm just not doing stuff. I'm just spending time with the family. And I think I need to do that more and more, but I mean, like my girl made it a lot easier to really put things smoother, in terms of like still playing with the kid and that type of stuff. I think I've been fortunate enough. Yeah.
Right.
Like if I was in like in other situations, or like I think it would be much harder. But like right now, I mean, everything is great. I get to spend a lot more time than a lot of people would spend with their kid, with their 8-month kid, if like they're working a 9 to 5 or something, like they're basically leaving the whole day, which is not, so like I'm just taking breaks. I can see him, take care of him, that type of stuff, which is nice as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Right, and actually that thing that you've mentioned about taking days off completely from poker, like not thinking about poker, etc., and you feel like you should do more of that. Do you want to expand on that? Because I also have an opinion about taking days off and how important it was for my life, and it's something that I've been doing on a regular basis for quite some time now. Right, so
Okay.
how does that change? Because like you obviously had a transition before, you didn't really have it, at least not purposefully. Of course, you still had days off, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like a planned thing that, okay, every week I'm going to have a day off. So how do you think, how does it change? What does it change for you, basically?
It's just a matter of like whenever, because I mean, like whenever let's say we take a day off completely, I'm going to be fully focused on my family and like doing stuff with them, and not just like being present, but like thinking about, oh, okay, like sometimes, you play a session, but like I'm still thinking about stuff, or you're thinking about other stuff. Like, okay, like a lot of the times I just like go to bed at night and just think about poker. It's like, okay, yeah, I did this today. Like I need to take a look at that tomorrow, and whatever it is. But it's just a matter of like try to say, okay, like Monday I take off, and we just spend time together. That's pretty much it, because that way, like you really feel like you're disconnected, and you can really enjoy the time you're spending with them, and you're not like half there and just like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So actually, we have a question in the chat of, do we feel that like some lifestyle improvements elevated our game? I think it's a cool question. Let's address it. And if I start first, I basically think like coming back to what we just discussed, that was a big game changer for me. The thing of leaving work at work. When I made
Yep.
that conscious decision, I even remember the exact moment when it happened, because it was around the time when I moved to Malta, which was like 10 years ago. And obviously the poker scene was pretty vibrant here. There were a lot of online guys here, so we would have like pretty much every evening some sort of party, some sort of let's go together for dinner. Everybody is just a foreigner here, so let's go hang out, let's go talk poker, whatever. And I remember sitting in this restaurant. We went to this crazy expensive restaurant, one of the best restaurants on the island, having this wonderful dinner. I remember like halfway through the dinner, I realized I was just the whole time thinking about my session. My session sucked. It was a pretty bad session. I was playing pretty high stakes. I was playing, I don't remember the stakes actually, but it was like really high stakes, do 7 triple draw game at the time when it was like super popular, right? So
Yep.
whatever, the swings were big, and I wasn't happy with the way I played some hands. So it was just in the back of my mind, and I realized like halfway through the dinner, like this is bullshit. I'm sitting in
Yeah.
with good friends of mine. We're supposed to be having good fun. I'm supposed to enjoy this fucking dinner that costs like an arm and a leg. Like it's for the average multi salary. I'm gonna pay basically like a half a month's salary for just this fucking dinner that I don't even enjoy, right? And I realized that this can't be right, because that's not a one-off thing. It was just to an extreme that I was just so obsessed with what happened. Because like otherwise, without extremes, it's just like you were describing, I would be just before going to sleep thinking about poker. You wake up, you think about poker. You're having lunch. So it's always poker, 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 right? And I don't exactly remember how I made the improvement, but right now, I mean, it's definitely the case when, I'm done with the day, I'm done with the day. That's it. It really doesn't matter. The results don't matter. What happened doesn't matter. What's going to happen doesn't matter. It's just it. The work is done. And it was liberating for me. It really improved not only the quality of my life in general, but also the quality of my game, for sure, because you need time to switch your brain off, right? you can't just all the time go on like, you know, overdrive, constant poker, right? I remember when I was doing the Supernova Elite some years ago, you know, I had a very, very solid routine. I wasn't even working that hard, you know. It was like a 4 to 6 hour average day, you know, one day off per week on a regular basis, and plus one of the days was half a day, right? Towards the end of the year, as it happens with everyone who tries to optimistically do Supernova Elite, you realize like, I'm behind schedule, I need to go. And that was a tough period when you basically are in this non-stop like poker mode. You burn out. When you burn out, you are not going to be playing good. You're not going to be improving. You're not going to be learning new things. You're just tired, right? So we need time to switch off. And that was like really, I think that was a game changer for me that elevated my game for sure. You know, learning how to switch off, learning how to, basically recuperate better, right? Because if we think about, like in sports, it's obvious. You know, if you play professional sports, and I don't mean baseball in this case, because you guys, you somehow play 160 games a year, right? And it still works out, right? But if we think about like soccer, right? Or you know, especially soccer, right? You're going to be running over 10 kilometers during the game, etc., etc. You have to be crazy to think that you can do it 3 days in a row. It's physically impossible. You need the rest time for your body because, you know, this crazy activity it requires. If you're playing on a super high level, you need to recover, right? Even though we know, like, of course, there's people who run like 30 marathons in 30 days, right? It's possible. It's humanly possible, but
is it good for your body?
Is it good for your body, and are you improving, right? Because the guys who are running 30 marathons in 30 days, they're not trying to break the world record, right? They're just, you know, I'm running the marathon. You're not running in the top 10 or top 100, right, in terms of times. So there's a difference between, like, if you actually want to achieve something on a high level, you need the rest. You need the time to switch off. You can't just be always overdrive, right?
No, totally. I mean, I think that's something also relating to me in the sense that I used to play really late before, you know, like, and play while I was tired. So like I mentioned, like I was playing like so many hands, and then, I mean, with everything else in my life, I mean, I just had to grind until 3, you know, and then you wake up at like 6:30 or 7 because you need to go to work, whatever. It's just a matter of like, I could have probably like cut the volume down like 25% at least and have like a much better win rate. Because I mean, like when you're tired, I mean, you're just not gonna play well. You're just not gonna. You're just not gonna play like your A or B game. So basically, like what I personally did is that I kind of cut down. So like whenever like there's a situation where, okay, I know I should be playing, but I really feel tired and I don't feel well, and like now, instead of going there and playing, I'm just maybe gonna take couple hours off, maybe take a nap or something, and then grind later. But before, that's not. So I would end up playing and then pretty much end up playing not so great, and that's not the best, right? So I'm a bit more not mature, but selective. I'm listening a bit more to myself now.
Right. Well, obviously, because it comes also with understanding how to objectively evaluate your performance, right? Because if you know, now you know that, you know, when you're tired, you're objectively not playing your A game. You're maybe not even playing your B game. So why are you playing, in fact, is the real question, right? And I know for myself that, you know, sometimes, because like in a high stakes environment, what happens is sometimes I have to play the game because it's usually plus EV, even though I'm like really tired and I really want to go.
Because they don't run, right?
They don't run, yeah. But still, you know, I have to be objective with that. Sometimes I will pass on the game, right? Sometimes, especially like because again, coming back to like the very recent example, on Sunday I played something like 14 hours. And when I say I played 14 hours, doesn't mean I played 14 hours nonstop. I was at the tables for 14 hours. You know, of course, we had some periods of lull where there's like, maybe an hour, 2 hours where there's no game running at all. But for the most part, for 14 hours, I was there at the tables. So I finished my session, was switching off the games, and I didn't switch off the computer immediately. I went to grab a bite. I come back to switch it off. I see there's a very great spot at the table to play, again, 10k PLO. And I can sit in position. And it took me, probably like 5 seconds to figure out I'm not going to do this. This is just, it's too much. I'm really tired. It's not worth it. I'm not going to, it's a great position. It's, yada, yada. But objectively, I'm not going to be able to perform on the level that I'm going to be happy with. And, enough is enough.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense for you, because for me, I think the decision is a bit easier in the sense that, like, if I come back in 3 hours, I'm still going to find good games.
Right.
Like there's always going to be decent games. So like at that moment, like the decision is a bit easier, because like if you're only playing like 5k plus or 2k plus, I mean, you just have to sit for like 14 hours like in front of your computer, and you're hoping to play maybe like 500 hands, which is ridiculous, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, luckily, it's usually more than 500 hands in 14 hours. But the point is true that, that's basically the environment, right? But it's a different environment. You have to adapt to it. And I think one thing that I want to point out, and I've brought it up several times previously on with conversations with other people, that, whenever I hear somebody in the mid stakes or especially the low stakes tell me that, oh, I had to play longer. I had to play longer because there was this massive recreational player, right? I'm thinking to myself, okay, so are you saying that you're not going to have another recreational player like him tomorrow? Like, this is a bullshit excuse. Just because there is a recreational player right now, which you think is like the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, well, guess what? At the mid-stakes and low stakes, this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity comes every day, roughly the same time of the day. So, it's really not something to do. And we talked with MMA Sherdog when he was on the podcast, that in the high-stakes environment, that is actually true. That sometimes, yes, sometimes you're going to have a recreational player, the game runs around him. If you leave the game, you're going to be 25th on the waiting list, and then good luck. Right? So you end up playing a super long session, but the reality of playing the super long session is that everybody at the table is playing the super long session, right? So it's everybody's tired, and how you handle, being tired and playing, that's gonna kick in, right?
Yep. That's where, like, having a good routine, eating well, sleeping well, prepares you to this, right? Like, because exactly. If you go out every night and then you come back and then you have this spot and you have to play for 12 hours, you have to be ready to do so. Even the thing about higher stakes like that I find would be annoying is that, like, you would have to prepare every day, right, to play for 14 hours without really knowing if you're really going to play.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
So like, you eat well, you sleep well, you get up in the morning because you want to play, like, I don't know, 2k hands today, but you end up playing like not so many hands because the game were just really bad, and you're like, okay, on to tomorrow, and then so on and so on. I think that's one of the toughest part about playing in the higher, as well as the variance.
Well, at the same time, it also sets apart people with good routines and good approach from people who don't have them, right? Because if you are always ready to do it, because it's not only about being ready, it's also about recovery time, right? Because you might be super tired. If all you need is like 3 minutes to set your mind straight, and then you can perform on an okay level, that's a good skill to have, right? And especially was tested in this when I was playing live games, because in the live games it's the same thing. The high stakes live game environment, sometimes you end up playing like these crazy 32-hour sessions because you know that the waiting list is such that basically you get off the table, you get back at the same table like, I don't know, 2 days from now, right? Because it's just, unless the game breaks, obviously, but if the game breaks, then there's no table anymore. But and it was, I remember the first time when as traveling for live poker, oftentimes you have to make a decision of where you're staying, etc., etc. And I remember the first time one of my friends who was staying in the hotel in Bellagio, basically, right? And his thing was like mid-session, he would take the allocated 45-minute break, which you're allowed to take, and he would just go to his room, have a shower, or go to the spa, relax, like mid-session, right? And he comes back and he's fresh. And now I really realize the value of that. Like, I'm actually trying, even though it costs more on paper to stay in the hotel where you're playing, well, it's really worth it, right?
Totally. I mean, this is kind of smart. And I mean, like everybody finds their own stuff, and people like just think about routine, just think about like how to maximize their winnings, like, because I mean, yes, it's gonna cost them more to live there, but like if he doesn't have traveling and he's gonna be spending like most of his playing time in the Bellagio, I mean, it kind of makes sense to actually be staying there.
Yeah, but also like you have to be careful with these things, because like in Bellagio, I still don't really like to stay, because like if I go to Vegas, I would usually go for a longer time, like at least over a month. Staying over a month in a hotel like Bellagio is just, it's not for me. I hate it after like 2 weeks. 2 weeks is tops, because you need, when you're prolonged period at the tables, you need this time to switch off, right? You need this time to do something else, so you just jump into your swimming pool in the house that you're renting, or play some basketball or whatever with friends in the house, or whatever it is. Just switch off from the grind. It's really hard to switch off in the hotel casino, because guess what? You go to the lobby, there's going to be all the machines and all the noises and the constant bullshit, and you run into people nonstop that are just basically, you end up talking poker with everyone because people have questions and whatever. But so another question we have in the chat is, did you have any major blocks other than lacking theory and knowledge that you overcome during your time when you tried to move up and rise up? A good question. I'm trying to think if I had any.
I mean, for me, it was just like, I think the first time it's all about like, when you're trying to move up and you're kind of like setting yourself, okay, I'm going to put in like, I don't know, 6 to 8 buy-ins, and then you go up, and then unfortunately you lose those 6, 8 buy-ins, and then you need to move back. I think those are not that easy, in a sense that like you have to be really professional, if I can say it like this, in the sense that like you have, like once you lose those 6 to 8 buy-ins, you need to move down, because if you keep going and if you keep playing at the higher stakes and then you lose a lot more, I mean, it's a significant part, usually it's a significant part of your bankroll. So then once you move back, then like your road to moving back up again is pretty big, and you see it as a big mountain. So I think this is one of the toughest things, I think, for me, like when you're trying to shot, like especially when you're like playing 200 and then you're shotting 500, which is like kind of like, instead of flipping, I don't know, for 400, you're now flipping for 1K, right? Mm-hmm. So like losing those, I don't know, 8 buy-ins, like if you lose more than that and then you move back down to 200, like how long is it going to take you to grind it back? I mean, it might take a while, right? So being really professional and structured, if I can say it like that, like I think that's really helpful, and that really helped me also. So I think for me, like having to move up and then move back down, I think that's kind of like not the major blocks, but it's kind of something that was through the process that, like I think if you're really structured and professional, like it makes it easier, but it's not an easy situation.
Yeah, it's a really good example that you're bringing up, because you know what, you have to overcome your ego, because for a lot of people,
Yes.
once you move up, you're like, okay, now I'm a
Yes.
mid-stakes player. So to drop down, all of a sudden you're dropping down to low-stakes player again, right? And it hurts, because if you take it personally, if you put your ego into the equation, it's real tough. So yeah, that's definitely something that holds a lot of people back, because
Yes. Go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, because like on paper, for example, you might know all the rules for bankroll management, but you don't do them because
Yeah.
your ego steps in and you're like, no, I'm surely, like, I was just so unlucky. It's just whatever, I'm going to play today and I'm going to grind it back, and it happens so often to everyone. And it definitely happened to me early on as well, and I struggled to accept the fact that, hey, I need to move down,
Yeah,
Uh,
also like just one thing I want to add up is that I think it's super important also when you move up to not say, okay, let's say I'm playing 200 and I want to move up at 500. It's not because you're trying to move up that you're now playing only 500. That's like one of the biggest mistakes I made, where like I was saying, okay, I got 8 buy-ins or 10 buy-ins that I want to use for moving up to 500, and then I would just play 500 until I lose those 10 buy-ins or I make it, right? But like the things is that I ended up playing bad games. I ended up playing like spots because like, I mean, you're shotting. So, I mean, you're not as comfortable as, let's say you've been playing that for a long time. You have a solid win rate. You're a confirmed winner in that stake, that type of stuff. So I think that when you move up, like, even though you're telling yourself, okay, I got, I don't know, X amount of buy-ins, it's really important for you to be kind of objective about like the games. And like if they're bad games, I mean, there's no need for you to be playing, right? So like you just play your regular stakes and then, you say, okay, the pool is good, there's a good spot here, then you move up and then you play. But I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I made through my while moving up and stuff, is that at some point, like when I was moving up, I was like, okay, I'm only playing this stake. I got 10 buy-ins. If I lose that, I'm moving back down. But I think it's just not smart. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, to recap, we point out two things that hold like major blocks that we've definitely experienced, and I think a lot of people experience. Like first was just, overcoming your ego, and second, making sure that you have proper routines and you approach things professionally, right? And another block for me, was also because, and it comes with the approaching things professionally, because like having proper routines was definitely, or not having proper routines rather, was holding me back for a period of time, right? Because it wasn't structured enough, it wasn't like a serious enough approach, even though we're told like it's probably like 10 years, 8 years ago or something. I was already playing very high stakes at that time, right? But I wasn't making progress. Like if I'm objective about it, sure, I was playing high stakes, and then at some point there was like a really high stakes in the deuce 7 triple draw before the Black Friday, before the whole thing, stopped. But after that period, I had a time when I had to move down. I had to swallow my ego. I had to just say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I used to play, like 2K Hold'em, and I used to play 2K PLO, and I used to play like whatever the blinds were, like I think like, well, at least 1,200, 1,000, 2,000 the blinds at the deuce 7 triple draw. So it was ridiculous, right? And to be honest, like in that game, I sucked. Like objectively, like nowadays I would just lose everything. But the thing is, everybody sucked because it was like a new game at that time.
Yes.
And people were jumping in, so all it took it was just to be slightly better than the average player, in which I was slightly better, But quickly I had to realize that once more and more money was being made in the game, some people made huge progress while I was just basically drinking wine, right? So don't make much progress drinking wine, I have to admit.
But it's nice to drink wine.
It's nice to drink wine. But speaking of wine, coming back to routines, like I had in mind that I'm gonna play the whole weekend this weekend, right? Because I've been really struggling to find time to really focus on poker, so I thought like I'm gonna free up the whole weekend. And you have like playing 14 hours a day, you have to make sure that you sleep well, you eat well, you have to do all these things well. So when I say 14 hours a day, it doesn't mean that I sacrificed everything and I was eating chips or frozen pizza
No, for sure.
without even heating it up while drinking wine before going to sleep, right? None of that happened. Like you have to be professional. You have to make sacrifices, basically. You know, if you see it as a sacrifice, I don't really see it as a sacrifice. It's just part of the game. You have to be professional, right? Same as in sports, you know, you don't achieve anything if you just like party hard after every game and, you know, you don't.
It just ruins everything, all the work you put in.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly, right. And coming back to the professional sports, right? I'm always fascinated by, you know, the way that the people with this professional sports background, like yourself, the way they approach and deal with variance. Right? Because usually it's a good way, right? Because the sports teach you, and they teach you the hard way, right? Without the financial ruin, which we can experience in poker, but they teach you the hard way, like what variance is and like how sometimes things are not fair and how sometimes you do everything right and the results just don't come. So do you actually have, do you feel it like your experience in the pro sports translated somehow to poker in a way that helped you deal with variance?
Yes, for sure. Like I think once you deal with the mental side in any area that you are with, whether it's sports, whether it's a regular job, whether it's poker, whether it's something else, I think a lot of the stuff applies everywhere. Like when I was with Oakland, and even before that, I was always interested into sports psychology, like the mental side of things, because I think that's what differentiates the really top level guy than the other guy. Because like at anything you do in life, everybody at the top have talent. Everybody at the top have knowledge, that type of stuff. I think what really differentiates, sorry about that word, but like the really, really top guys from the other guys is really the mental side of things. And like when I was playing professional baseball, like we had access to like a sports psychologist. Again, I was trying to pick his brain. And like basically like whenever I was pitching, you know, I would pitch around 100 pitches during a game, and the mindset I had, I was trying to get into the game. It was to get the game at its simplest form. So let's say you have the entire game, you pitch 100 pitches. I mean, you cannot be thinking about, oh, I need to get to the 5th inning because I want to win. You cannot be thinking about I want to finish this inning, or I want to. You can't even be thinking right now about like, okay, the hitter is here. I wanna get him out. Like what you need to focus on is really the task at hand, which is executing a pitch one pitch at a time. So basically, like you have basically the whole game, which is around 100 pitches, but you're trying to make it in its simplest form, which is one pitch at a time. And in baseball, for example, the variance is not in the money. So the variance is I could make a great pitch that like the location is perfect, everything is great, but the guy hits it well and hits it over the fence, right? So that's a bad result. But the thing is that I need to focus on what I can control, which is the pitch, and the way I executed it is fine. And there were many pitches that I threw that I was not satisfied with it, right? Like it was right down the middle or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then the guy hit it, but he eventually got an out, right? But the thing is that like, am I satisfied about the pitch? No. But is the result good? Yes. So you really have to focus, and like all this thing really relates to poker. I mean, like poker, I mean, you cannot be thinking about like the long term, and the task at hand while playing poker is really like playing one hand at a time. Like whether you played the hand good or bad, like once the hand is done, you need to move on to the next hand. You know, like, and then it's like a 1,000 hand session that you're trying to play one hand at a time and that type of stuff. So I think like, I mean, you can translate that to golf. You know, like you're playing golf. I mean, you hit a great shot, and then you have to move on to the next one and the next one and so on. So like I'm saying, a lot of the things like really apply to like multiple facets, like in different sports, different area, that type of stuff. But like I think just having a solid approach on that side, I think is super important.
Right. And it's a really good point that you're bringing up of like basically breaking down the game to its simplest form. And in baseball,
Yes.
that happens to be, for you as a pitcher, one throw. For a batter, it's going to be, you know, one
Yes, exactly.
thing,
One
right?
pitch at a time, same thing. Yes.
Exactly. Right. So it's so important. And in every sport, it's the same. And in sports, it's much easier to make this, you know, thing, because obviously you know that there's only one thing you can actually work on away from the I wanted to say away from the table, but away from the pitch in baseball's case, right? But that's the same in poker. You every, like, one hand at a time, and more so one decision at a time. And you know, we need to make the best decision we can with the information we have.
Yes.
Information about how much you're up or down in the session shouldn't be part of that decision. You know, if you're thinking about it while making a decision about the hand, you're wasting your mental energy, and you know, you're too emotionally invested into the for the wrong reasons, because there's really no benefit. Like, you know, people who keep checking their graph mid-session or beginning of session, then say, what is the point? Most of them,
No,
they
I mean,
realize that you actually are hurting yourself by doing this,
yes.
right? Because
Yes, for sure.
you're using your mental capacity, and you're getting emotional about things, you know, especially like, you know, you lose a couple flips in a row, and then you get like, oh, this is bullshit, you know, the fourth flip, and then you can't, you know, and shouldn't, you know. In fact, you know, yesterday I recorded an episode for the podcast. That is the first time I recorded an episode offline, right? Because we're gonna be putting this on iTunes as well eventually, and so I recorded an episode with Leszek Badurowicz, who is you know, a very successful high stakes, currently high stakes PLO player, and also a mental coach, and he wrote a book about mental game, and you know, and it's just very fascinating conversation, which we're gonna
Yes,
publish at
it's
some point.
super interesting.
Yeah, and he had a story which I found really beautiful, and sort of, hey guys, spoiler alert, it's a story from the podcast that's coming up, but listen, it's not really a movie or anything, right? So he told a story about, you know, how a turning point in his life when he realized how important the mental game is. He had a stretch of 18 winning days, so he won 18 days in a row. And was feeling great and checking his graph and just like king of the hill. On the 19th day, he ended up that day when he finished the session minus $1. Minus $1. And it sent him on a monkey tilt, because he basically was like, no, this is bullshit. I'm going to keep playing. So he ended up playing
I'm
like
gonna keep winning.
yeah, and he ended up playing like a 30-hour session, skipped the sleep, continued the next day. Long story short, he lost half of his bankroll in one day. Right? You do 18 days in a row winning, you lose $1, and all of a sudden, like, all hell breaks loose. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And his example, of course, is extreme. But I see examples like this over and over and over again in other people, not to such extent, you know, that $1 sends you on a complete death spiral, but you know, it doesn't have to be $1. Just like for some people, it's losing 3 flips in a row, and then they start like,
exactly.
oh, this is unfair. Like, this is bullshit. How did it happen?
I mean, I totally agree. And one of the biggest things, and I've been saying that for a long time, is that you have to spend your energy into what you can control. Anything you cannot control, you need to put it on the side. That's it. Like if you put energy into something that you cannot control, you're just wasting your energy. Like, and that's with like all life, you know, like with like bad people in life, you know, like if you spend time on them, I mean, you're just wasting some energy. Just like you just have to spend times on what you can control and what you want to. I think that's something that's super important, and that relates to anything. Like in baseball, it was for me like just executing a good pitch, and like in poker, it's playing a hand well, you know, like, and then the results, I mean, like I think also like it's important to say that like it's like whenever like you get annoyed at the table, you know, because you get like cooler all the time, uh it's okay to be frustrated. You know, like some people think that like okay, like my mental side is good or my mental game is super strong, but it's like I have to be like a wax museum like statue or something. You know, like I cannot express my anger. But yes, you can. You can like you can be mad for a second. You can be mad for 2 seconds. You can like just say a curse word. But what I like to do personally is whenever I feel annoyed about a spot, you know, like or like I feel like a certain hand really bothering me, and then you know I have a problem getting through. It's just I have like a small saying that you know that's for me that you choose. It's like a small phrase, you know, and then you say that out loud, and it actually helps me bring me back to okay, I need to focus. And like it can be whatever, it can be a word, it can be a joke, it can be a small phrase, it can be anything. It's just something that really relates to you. And then once you say that, like you kind of realize okay, now I'm kind of starting to act a bit too much, you know, like I'm trying to be annoyed a bit too much than I should. I need to get back on track, and you just say it. Also, like I say that, and I have this little screaming goat here that I press, right? And then you can hear it, scream. So whenever I get cooler, and then and then I feel annoyed, I just say my phrase, and then I click on the goat, and then it's automatically makes me feel a lot
Nice.
better.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool. Like these little rituals. I don't have one like this, but in general, like little rituals that
Hmm.
trigger something, any trigger. Like for some people, the triggers are in specific music. They would put a song on that, puts
Yeah.
them back in the mind. And I
Hmm.
think a super important point that you brought up is that it's okay to be annoyed. It's okay to be
Yes.
frustrated. It's totally okay. Because now I realize, I oftentimes talk about dealing with variance. I wrote an article on 2+2
Yes,
about it.
I read it.
Right. And I made some videos on YouTube about it, and I keep talking about how important it is. And I realize I never mentioned that it's okay to be frustrated, and it really is, because I know that I am still sometimes frustrated. I mean, listen, again, I keep bringing up that Sunday session, right? But it's just it's the most recent session that I had, and it was like a special one because like we did have the game running for like
Yeah,
14
for a long
hours,
time.
right? During that session, I had periods where I was frustrated by, I was just like, like three in a row, like in one orbit, like, stupid suckouts, like how annoying it is. It's fine. But what I do is I immediately recognize, okay, I'm thinking this way. I shouldn't be thinking this way. What does it mean? I need to step away from the table for 2 minutes. Need to take a walk. Need to take a breather because that affects me in that moment. So the best decision I can make is sit out the big blind, have a walk. So in the 14-hour sessions, I made one pause like this because,
Hmm.
there was a period, because your mental muscle is exhausted. You've played for like 10 hours, 8 hours, or whatever it was, and you're already tired. And then, a few things in terms of variance that happen and kind of piss you off, it's bound to happen. It's normal. I mean, we're all human. Everybody has emotions, right? So it's how you deal with the emotions what counts,
Hmm.
right? And it's, recognizing them and dealing with them. That's the key there, not
Yes,
letting them affect you.
keeping it inside is not gonna help you. You know,
Exactly.
it's not like feeling, okay, this doesn't affect me. I mean, it affects everybody at some point. Like when you flip, and then you run it twice and then you lose both flips. It's kind of annoying, but I mean, it's fine when it's been like 7 times. You're like, come on, man. Like, it's just not like it's just being honest with yourself. Like, it's fine to be annoyed. It's fine to be mad, but you have to find a way to get yourself back on track and focus on what's important. And that's the task at hand, right?
Exactly. Right. So what else do we have in the chat? Keeg Smith is saying that actually coming back to the thing we talked about, Leszek Badurowicz having like 18 sessions of winning and then one session that sends him on the spiral. Keeg Smith had a similar experience of 17 sessions, and then the 18th spiraled him off. So yeah, these stories happen all the time, man. It's not uncommon. You're not alone, and it's important to learn from this experience.
Yes.
Best is to learn before you have this experience. That's why you read something, you hear something from other people. You heard us talk about it. So hopefully when a similar situation arises in your life, in your career, you would remember this and think like, am I actually doing this, right? Because there's this guy, Ray Dalio, right? It's a wonderful thinker. He is one of the most successful investors of all time, right? And he wrote the book Principles, and he talks a lot about the principles. That's his thing. And one of the principles is another one of those, which is basically the way he sees anything that happens. And he sees it from a perspective that, oh, it's another one of those, because everything happened to somebody else somewhere before. There's nothing unique. There's very rarely something happens that like, wow, never happened to anyone before. So you have to recognize it's another one of those. So how would somebody else deal with it? What are we supposed to do with this situation? It's a good way to look at these things. So
yeah, also like I've in terms of like I'm not sure like what's his name, like it's Keith Smith. Like a lot of the times, I'm not sure if that happened to you, but some of my biggest losing days came right after like some of my biggest winning days. I'm not sure if that happened with you.
That happened to Phil Galfond. That's for sure. Yeah, but I know what you mean. I don't remember specifically if it happened to me. I'm sure it did, because it's another one of those. We all had it. Because what happens after your winning day, you get your confidence up, your ego is all bloated, It doesn't happen to me for a long time because, like I already said many times today, my ego is out of the question, like out of the picture, and I switch off. The day is done, The next day I start fresh. The truth is, I still have periods when I don't switch off completely. And the next day I'm not fresh. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that day. I'm going to take it off. Regardless of what the games are. I just know I'm not in a state of mind I shouldn't be playing. Right? And that's something I have to recognize. That happens very rarely to me. But it happens. Because again, I want to point it out. Because it's okay to... everything is okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay. Even like checking your graph while you're playing, it's okay. I sometimes do it myself, and then I laugh about myself, thinking like, I keep telling to everyone, don't do this. This is bullshit, waste of your time. And I do it sometimes. I don't even know why. I just like, well, kind of, I don't know. It's there. You click on the graph, like refresh. Let's see it, But usually it just makes me smile and just like, okay, whatever, what am I doing?
I really do think that it's okay to make mistakes, okay? But the only thing is that you want to learn from those.
Yeah.
I think that's the best, not the best way to improve. But like what I mean by that is that like it kind of relates to what I was saying in the beginning, that like I think playing a lot helps you get better. I think that it's true only if you learn from your mistakes. Because I mean, if you play a lot, right, and you make a lot of mistakes but you don't improve, I mean, you're just going to lose a lot of money, which does not really make sense. But what I mean by that is that by playing a lot, you make mistakes, which is fine because you take a look into it, you fix those mistakes, and then you get better and better. So I like a lot of people get annoyed or get frustrated because let's say they're playing a session and like they suddenly play a hand really bad, and just having played that hand really bad, like kind of like tilts them or like angers them or whatever, and then they end up playing really bad afterwards. The thing is that like it's okay to play a bad hand. It's okay to make mistakes. I mean, I have like so much room to improve. Like I make mistakes every day, and the thing is that like you need to try to learn from them and get better. That's the only thing. And you have to accept also, you have to accept the fact that you are going to be making mistakes. Because I know some other poker players that they expect, like they spend so much time studying. They spend so much time like off the table, you know? They feel that their game is really good and like they're playing really good, and then when they play and they make a mistake, they're like, man, I spent so many hours like towards this exactly, and then I end up playing and then I still make a mistake. Like what the hell is wrong with me, you know? And then like pretty much their whole session is kind of like ruined because they feel like, okay, like what is it worth to put all this work and still end up making mistakes? But you just have to accept that you don't grasp the topic well enough to actually be applying in the game, which is fine. So you're still gonna make mistakes, and once you accept that, I think it makes things much more easier.
Absolutely, and it's a thing that, you know, unreasonable expectations actually hold a lot of people back from achieving something, because they come into this thinking that, you know, they're gonna reach a point where they're not gonna be making mistakes, which is, nobody's gonna ever reach a point. Not only in poker, in life in general. Like nobody's ever gonna just walk around not making a single mistake, you know? And if there is such a person, probably some brick is gonna fall on their head somehow by accident, and then the variance takes them out, you know, the big leveler. So, you know, it's okay to make mistakes, like you said, and it's important to realize that, you know, you can't expect to be perfect. It's not the goal, really. I mean, even if you like aspire to be one of the best players in the world, what you're actually aspiring to is not to reach a level where you're perfect and not making any mistakes. You're aspiring to be better than the other people. That's it.
You expect to make less mistakes than your opponent.
Exactly. Right. So let's address some other questions in the chat. So Kurabika is saying, so do you feel urged to play even when you are kind of burned out and don't play good anymore? I think we kind of already addressed it in a way that you shouldn't. You really should take the break. You know, you have to recognize when you are not able to perform anymore, right? And there's something to be said about, some people are too quick to sort of give up and say, okay, I'm not in a mood, I can't play today. You know, sometimes you need to push through.
Yes, totally.
Right? Because it's not okay to just always like quit as soon as, like, because if we think about like any sports again, and from your experience, you know, to you this thing is obvious because you have to push through the pain sometimes. You know, you're running a marathon or something, you're gonna want to quit pretty early on, but then you push and then you're fine. You know, but it's important to recognize that sometimes you push, but it's not enough, and it's not gonna happen, so you quit, right?
Yes.
So that is important to recognize.
I think that's the toughest part, though. You know, because before I used to like play tired, that type of stuff, and we already said all that. But it's really about like having more experience now and really knowing, okay, should I be playing now? Or because like you mentioned also, like there's going to be some days that, I mean, you won't feel 100%, right? But you still have to play because, I mean, you need to put in work, right? I mean, if you have a regular job and like, it's not like you're going to be feeling 100% like every day, but you still need to do it. It's just at a point of like realizing, okay, like today, I think I really should benefit from taking a day off than you do. And yeah, it's just a matter also like having a bit more experience and knowing, I think like saying, okay, I don't feel good today, I'm just not playing, is not good either. You have to
Yeah.
really find the right approach.
Yeah, and it's important. And then also, like your example about if you have a 9 to 5 job, of course you're not gonna call your boss and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't feel like it today. It's just like not in the mood. I'm a bit tired. I'm gonna
No,
stay home."
you just don't call.
Yeah, or
Stays.
that, and same like coming back to the sports. I know I keep bringing up sports all the time, but I think it's important to because it's like an easy example to understand the easy parallel. Because like if we think about soccer players, right? If those guys would only play when they are at the 100% of their fitness, where like
Uh,
nothing hurts, they would never play. They would play like the first 2 games of the season and that's it.
mhm.
It's not possible. You always play at like 80, 90% because guess what? There's like some muscle pain, you had a bruise, you're playing a game that is, I wanted to say rough, and then probably some people would really laugh at me that I'm saying like soccer is a rough game. But you see my point. It's just not possible to always, like if you always wait till you're 100% ready, you're gonna play or work just like a few days a year.
Yeah, and I can relate that so much to baseball, man. Like with baseball being such a grind in the sense that like you're playing pretty much every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for 6 months as a pitcher, like even if I'm, let's say, throwing every fifth day, like I'm throwing every day, whether it's a long toss or from shorter distance, but I'm throwing every day. There's a saying in baseball saying like basically the only days that you feel 100% are like the first 3 days of spring training.
Mm-hmm.
After that, man, like you always have something, like your arms always sore, tired, heavy. I mean, you have to do cold tubs, you have to do so much. You gotta get massages, you have to get like just to get your body ready. Because I mean, to be honest, like if I would have waited for me to feel 100%, like I would have never pitched. And that's basically everybody. Now the thing is that if you go to the trainer and you say, "Hey, my elbow is hurting," right? What are they gonna do? They're gonna say, "Oh, okay, we're gonna shut you out. We're gonna shut you down for 2 weeks," right?
Mm-hmm.
Going to treat that, but they're gonna call somebody up. What if this guy does well? Now are you gonna go back in or no? So that's kind of like a double-edged sword in a sense that like, okay, I don't feel good, like I'm not 100%, but like, is it just that like what I always told my baseball kids that I was coaching is that it's okay to be tired, but is it like is it hurting? That's a bit different. Like if my arm is sore a bit and it's tired, or my body is sore or tired, it's much different than like if it's really hurting. Like if it's really hurting, then you need to go see the trainer. But I mean, if you always went and saw the trainer whenever you felt sore, I mean, like you would always be there, and then somebody would end up taking your place, which is not what you want to do as well.
Right. And especially like in a team sport environment, if you have a guy who's always looking for an excuse to not do something, well, it's an easy decision of what to do with this guy. He's just sitting on the bench until his
Yes.
contract is over, and then off you go. You can sit on another bench somewhere. That's the reality of it, yeah. Yeah, the Ben CB was a really interesting guest. It's like so interesting to talk to him about. We covered so many topics, and this one's gonna show up on YouTube before this weekend. I think, like probably on Friday or Saturday morning or something. So, you guys, if you haven't seen it, last week we had Ben CB on the podcast. It was a great episode. So go out and check it out when it's available. And if you want to know when it's available, just go to my YouTube channel. It's Runchuks Poker on YouTube, and subscribe, and you're going to get the notifications, or maybe you need to click on a bell to get notifications. Whatever. Do what you have to do, but you're going to get notified when the episodes are live.
Yeah, really cool content on there, to be honest. I've been watching it. And,
all right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And it's been inspiring, actually. A lot of people reached out to me and like saying that, they find some things interesting. And, that's the good thing about having like a 2-hour conversation. Because in this 2 hours, I'm sure some of the things that we talked about, some people find it not so interesting. Some of the things they find really interesting. There's probably a few people who are going to find the whole 2 hours interesting. But that's the beauty of it, you know. There's a lot out there, and you have the timestamps on YouTube, so you can just jump around the topics and, you know, choose what you like the most and what you're most interested in.
And also, like, I'm sure some people never heard of baseball as well,
Right.
you know, like,
Right.
so.
All right. Speaking of baseball, actually, it's funny because like, so your team was based in a Bay Area, and my first encounter to baseball was actually with the Giants.
I mean, they have a great stadium, right?
Yeah, they have such a beautiful stadium. It was the first game that I attended live, because before that, the only way I knew baseball was, you know, every summer in Vegas, you have that whatever it's called, the summer league or something.
Yes.
Right, and you would see this baseball on TV, and I always thought like, this is fucking bullshit. It's boring, right?
Oh, it's so boring to watch, man. Like in television,
crazy.
like people just hate it. But I mean, live, it's fun when you're in a nice stadium and that type of stuff.
Yeah, live. I mean, on TV, it's interesting to see the highlights, right? But just the highlights. Live, it's just such a great thing because like the atmosphere is great. People are having fun, you know. And I've never experienced in any other sport before such a camaraderie between the two groups of supporters. They don't hate each other. They sort of, you know, support each other. The game I saw was Giants against Dodgers. So San Francisco against LA, supposed to be like a big match, a grudge match, etc.
Yes,
people were having so much fun. Yeah, exactly. You know, and you would expect like there's gonna be, you know, two gangs going at each other and people just having real fun. So yeah, that was really cool. And the stadium was like, wow, you have the view of the golden,
the bay.
Of the bay, of the bridge. You know, it's just like wow.
It's one of the best stadiums. Like there, San Diego is amazing. Yeah.
Right. So all right, another big question. So let's try to address that. So. Were you ever in a spot where you were unsure if you're beating the games? So he either blames the variance or his bad game. The problem is when you are playing good and just run bad, you're trying to change something. It's obviously bad because you are now in a circle and something is opposite. You play bad over and over, blaming variance and not changing something. I mean, where do I start? I mean, first of all, a couple points that are important here, which is basically the key question here. How do you recognize what is bad run and what is bad play? All right. And again, we talked about it with you in the beginning that, you know, it's really helpful to have a third person take a look at your game. You know, a person, because like if you're not capable of stepping back, like taking a big picture view, like yourself on your game, it's much easier to have somebody like a coach or like a study partner or, you know, somebody take a look and evaluate objectively, because very often we're just emotionally invested and we just want to write off all the losses on variance and all the wins on just the pure genius, you know, and it's not the way, you know. You have to be objective in anything really, you know. And same again, if we talk about any professional sports, you know, you might think you're the best, you know, shooter in basketball. You might think you're the best pitcher in baseball. The thing with baseball and basketball, the feedback loop is very short and it's really easy to measure the results. If you're the best shooter, well, are you actually making like 50 shots in a row from the free throw? If you are, then okay, you're a best shooter. Doesn't matter if your technique is perfect. You're doing the thing, right?
And even the best shooter, you know, you take the best shooter, he's not gonna miss like 35 free throws in a row, you know, like on a bad day.
Yeah, exactly. Like such variance is not gonna happen. I mean, if the guy's playing in a high wind on a boat, then okay, it's gonna happen. But why is he doing that? You know, it's not really the environment, right? And the problem in poker is because the only thing we can measure easily are the results, and the results are something we can't control. That's what fucks a lot of people up. because they measure the wrong thing and then they, make the wrong conclusions. Like we really see it with the Galfond challenge right now, of the guy
Yes.
being stuck 900k, right? And there's so much
10K
discussion
hands.
about, the edge, etc., etc. If he, apart from the discussion of who's a better player and why, people just keep saying that Phil is outclassed. And I'm thinking, like, really? I mean, maybe it's the case, but you can't make this objective conclusion just from the results of 10k hands, right?
I mean,
There might be
10K hands adds up PLO.
Exactly.
It's
nothing. It's nothing. And I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not true. It's not the case that he's not, maybe he's outclassed. But you can't make this assumption, because it's just an assumption, and people are like, oh, it's clear. It's clear that he's just super bad. Is it though? I mean, you're basing it on what? Like if somebody came out and said, listen, I did a full database analysis. Here's what I found. He has leaks here, here, here. Vinny's exploiting him here, here, here. And the thing is, Phil doesn't change these leaks. Like he doesn't work on his game.
No,
he just has no chance. Then I would say, yeah, obviously he's outclassed. You're right. But nobody did a database analysis because nobody has the database, right? So, and it comes again, like even people reviewing their own results, it's always results. You review results. There are other ways to estimate how good you play, and for many people, what's stopping them from doing like a objective evaluation is ego. It's much harder to objectively evaluate your own game.
Yeah, and I think like you bring that, and it brings me to an interesting point where I think what's super important is to detach yourself from the results. And I know it's kind of like everybody says that, but like what I mean by that is there's a saying that I've always tried to follow, is that it says it's basically this: it's keep your highs low and your lows high. So a lot of people, when they have big winning sessions or they win like 17 sessions out of 18, like one of the Twitch guys, like you feel like you're the king of the hill, right? Like you feel like you're the king, and there's nothing that's gonna stop you. But then you end up having like a downswing, and then you're down. Like the next days you end up down, and then now you feel at the rock bottom. So basically, like you're emotionally swinging, like connected to your results, but like what you need to try doing is that, like, even if you had a losing day, you need to be like right in the middle. And even if you had your biggest winning day and you feel super good, I mean, it's fine to feel fine. I mean, if you have your biggest day, congrats. But at the end of the day, it's congrats, and we have to move on to the next day, which is tomorrow, right? When you're going to be playing again. Because if you feel really high or really low, that's when like you're really going to start swinging emotionally, and also it's not really going to help you when you're playing. And like this is a saying that, like, I mean, I kind of like it's I've tried to put it in practice. It's not easy, but it's something that I found myself doing quite a lot before, and then
Right. And I was also like checking the comments right now, and I want to just address the last few, and then we're gonna call it a day. We're over 2 hours today. I actually think Arthur is probably not streaming after us. Usually it's his time, 8 p.m. for a stream, but I think he is a bit sick today, so I hope he's not streaming. Otherwise, I'm announcing to the world now he's not streaming and he's actually waiting to stream. So Arthur, get well soon if you're out there, and if you're already well, then okay, you're gonna come up, and I scared all your audience. So, but let's get back to the comments. Poker 7 Ace has a very nice comment about, like, he really enjoyed our conversation, thinks it's pure gold, and he hopes he can join Bluff the Spot soon and work with people such as ourselves. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. I'm happy that you guys are enjoying. I definitely enjoyed this conversation a lot. Like every conversation I'm having, I feel like I always learn something refresh something, and in many ways just come away from these conversations with something that was really important for me, and this one was definitely one of those where, that's it's just really inspiring and a lot of interesting things that we touched upon. And Muggy is asking, like, how come I get so fired up when people are, when people take results as a measure. Yeah, maybe I got a bit fired up there. I don't know why. I don't know how it happened, but the truth is, why I get fired up is because so many of my friends, because like obviously I moved to Malta 10 years ago. The scene was really vibrant. I've met so many poker players, hanging out with like, I don't even know, like close to 50, 60 people on a regular basis, hanging out, having drinks together, etc., etc. Majority of them are not in poker anymore. And there are many reasons, right? Some of the reasons are lack of proper routine, lack of professionalism, lack of this, lack of that. But for the most part, the biggest problems that I saw were the problems of measuring everything by the results. Because what happens is you get emotionally invested in the results. Your
Yes.
ego grows as your results grow, and then you get like kind of depressive when the results go the other way, because all of a sudden your worldview doesn't fit the narrative anymore. You think, because like your results by running good over a stretch of whatever, even if it's like 100,000 hands of run good, all of a sudden you have one perception of how the world works and how great you are. When you start running bad, it's just like breaks people, right? Because it breaks their view, that it breaks, their perception of who they are, how good they are, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and it's such a bad spiral. Because like I've seen so many people, but for various reasons, run good or play good or whatever, but make a lot of money invest a lot of time, make a lot of money, and then lose it really quickly. And lose it why? Because, they just spiral into this monkey stupid behavior because the results don't fit. Like, they don't believe that there's something wrong with their game, it's just running bad, blah, blah, blah. All that bullshit. So that's why I get slightly carried away every time people talk about results as a measure of anything, because sure, you can talk about results as a measure if you understand what role results actually play in evaluating your game. There's nothing wrong in talking about results, right? You can talk about results. You can, talk about your graph or whatever makes you happy, but don't fool yourself into thinking that that's a measure of your skill somehow.
And also, results don't define you as a person.
Exactly.
So it's not because, like, it's a bit like what I said. You have to keep your highs low and your lows high, and like it's not because that you've been down swinging or like you've been losing a lot of money that like as a person you are a failure. I mean, it's just like that's the problem, like you mentioned, that a lot of people see is that, oh, when everything goes great, they feel great because they say, oh, I'm a successful guy, I'm playing well, and then whenever they start losing a bunch, then it's kind of the other way around, and it's kind of like emotionally it's swinging, and that's, I think, makes it really hard as well.
Exactly, that's the thing. Anyway, listen, Jimmy, I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'm sure we missed a couple comments or a couple questions that people asked in the chat, because now I see some that I completely didn't see somehow. Sorry about that. We can't address every question, but I feel like we actually addressed a lot of the things today, and you guys, in the chat, you've been great. Some really good questions today. You guided our discussion in a really interesting direction.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah, I really appreciate everybody watching. I really appreciate all of you who subscribed and followed us. I saw the notification pop up once in a while, and I hope you appreciate that I finally tackled the problem of the annoying notification sound. We didn't hear any sound like in the last week with Ben CB. Yeah, it was a problem, man. In the beginning especially, a lot of people were following, which I was happy about. At the same time, that stupid sound, and I couldn't do anything about it. So now it's fixed. So your your subscription wasn't, announced or anything, but we still love you. Thank you for doing this. Like I said, this episode is gonna end up on YouTube in about a week and a half, 2 weeks time. So you can find this and the previous episodes on YouTube on my channel, which is Runchuks Poker. So if you haven't subscribed to it already, go do it right now. We also put highlights of the episodes on the BluffTheSpot channel on YouTube, so go check it out as well. There's plenty of great material. There's other people who, regularly put some really cool videos. MMA Sharedog is putting out some really cool stuff there as well. So, it's go check it out as well. And yeah, Jimmy, man, listen. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure. It was a really nice discussion as well, more on the personal side of things, which is kind of nice as well sometimes.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys, everybody. See you next week.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you, Runchuks.
Bye.